The argument in the hospital cafeteria had drawn more attention than Camila Fletcher intended, but she would not back down when someone insulted her grandmother's rosary beads. The young doctor across from her had made a dismissive comment about religious jewelry in medical settings, and Camilla's protective instinct had flared immediately. She clutched her coffee cup tighter, her dark eyes blazing as she defended her Catholic faith with the passion of someone who had found comfort in prayer during her grandmother's final days. What she did not notice was the man in the expensive charcoal suit standing 3 tables away, watching the entire exchange with undisguised fascination. Xander Northbrook had come to the hospital for a routine board meeting, as he did every month since his family's foundation had donated the new pediatric wing. He had stopped for coffee before heading upstairs, and now he found himself completely captivated by the young woman whose voice carried conviction without cruelty, strength without arrogance. The doctor eventually apologized and walked away, leaving Camila to sink into her chair with shaking hands. She whispered a quick prayer under her breath, asking for patience and kindness, when a voice beside her said, "You handled that with remarkable grace." Camila looked up to find a man who seemed to have stepped out of a business magazine. He was tall, probably in his early 30s, with dark hair that was perfectly styled and eyes that held genuine warmth despite the formality of his appearance. His jaw was strong, his shoulders broad, and everything about him spoke of confidence and success. "I probably should have just walked away," Camila admitted, tucking a strand of her brown hair behind her ear. She was still in her scrubs from her shift as a surgical nurse, feeling distinctly underdressed next to this polished stranger. "Why would you walk away from defending something that matters to you?" Xander pulled out the chair across from her without invitation, but somehow it did not feel presumptuous. "I'm Xander, Camila." She studied him curiously. "Do you make a habit of eavesdropping on other people's arguments?" "Only the interesting ones." His smile was genuine, reaching his eyes. "And for what it is worth, I think the hospital is better for having people who care deeply about their beliefs. It means they care deeply about other things too, their patients, for instance." Something in his tone made her think he was not just making conversation. "You sound like you know this hospital pretty well." "I sit on the board. My family's foundation works with several medical facilities in the city." He said it casually, as if discussing the weather rather than the kind of wealth that could build hospital wings. Camila felt her cheeks warm slightly. She had just been involved in a public argument in front of a hospital board member. "Well, that's embarrassing." "Don't be embarrassed." "I meant what I said." Xander leaned forward slightly. "Can I ask you something? That rosary you were defending, is it your grandmother's?" The question surprised her with its perceptiveness. "It was. She passed 6 months ago. I wear it under my scrubs during every shift." She touched the spot where the beads lay hidden beneath the fabric. "It reminds me why I became a nurse. She was in and out of hospitals for years, and the nurses who treated her with dignity and kindness made all the difference." Xander listened with an intensity that made Camila feel like she was the only person in the crowded cafeteria. "She would be proud of you, I think." "I hope so." Camila glanced at her watch and stood reluctantly. "I need to get back to my floor. It was nice meeting you, Xander." "Wait." He stood as well, pulling a business card from his wallet. "Would you have dinner with me? Tomorrow night." Camila took the card, reading the embossed text that identified him as CEO of Northbrook Industries. Her eyes widened slightly. "You're asking a nurse to dinner." "I'm asking a woman who impressed me to dinner," he corrected. "The fact that you're a nurse just makes you more impressive." She found herself smiling despite her surprise. "Okay, tomorrow night." The restaurant Xander chose was elegant without being ostentatious, a place where the lighting was soft and the tables were spaced far enough apart for private conversation. Camila had changed into a simple navy dress that her sister had insisted she borrow, and she felt Xander's appreciative gaze when she walked in. He stood as she approached, pulling out her chair with old-fashioned courtesy that made her heart flutter slightly. "You look beautiful." "Thank you." "You clean up pretty well yourself." It was an understatement. In a dark blue suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, Xander looked like he belonged in this world of crystal glasses and cloth napkins. They ordered, and the conversation flowed easily. Xander asked about her work, and Camila found herself telling him about the patients who had touched her heart, the small victories that made the long shifts worthwhile. In turn, he spoke about his company, which manufactured medical equipment and supplies. "So you are not just involved in healthcare philanthropy," Camila said. "You are actually in the medical field in a way." "My father started the company after my younger sister was born with a heart condition. He was frustrated by the quality of some of the equipment available 40 years ago, so he decided to make better versions himself." Xander's expression softened. "She's perfectly healthy now, married with 3 kids, but the mission stuck with our family." "That's a beautiful legacy," Camila said sincerely. "What about your family?" "Besides your grandmother," Camila traced the rim of her wine glass. "My parents emigrated from Colombia before I was born. They worked incredibly hard to give my sister and me opportunities. My father owns a small construction company now, and my mother works as a translator. They're devout Catholics, and they raised us the same way." She paused. "What about you? Are you religious?" Xander set down his fork and something flickered across his face. "I'm Jewish. Not particularly observant, I'll admit. I go to synagogue on the high holy days, mostly to please my mother, but it is not a huge part of my daily life." Camila felt a small flutter of concern. She had not expected that, though she was not sure why. "So we come from pretty different backgrounds." "Does that bother you?" His gaze was steady, searching. "No," she said slowly, realizing it was true. "I just wonder if it might bother other people. Your family, maybe, or mine. Let's not worry about other people right now." Xander reached across the table and his hand covered hers. The touch sent warmth through her entire body. "Let's just worry about us." The us made her smile. "Okay, just us." They talked until the restaurant began to empty, discovering shared tastes in music and food, laughing over stories from their respective workplaces. When Xander drove her home, he walked her to her apartment door and kissed her cheek with a gentleness that made her breath catch. "Can I see you again?" he asked. "Yes," Camila said without hesitation. The next few weeks passed in a blur of dinners, museum visits, and long walks through the city. Camila learned that Xander was generous without being showy, brilliant without being condescending, and he made her laugh in ways she had not expected. He learned that she was fiercely loyal, compassionate almost to a fault, and she challenged him to think about the world differently. But the question of their different faiths lingered in the background, unspoken but present. It came to a head on a Sunday morning. Camila had invited Xander to have brunch with her family, something she had never done with anyone she was dating. She was nervous as they pulled up to her parents' house in Queens, a well-maintained 2-story home with a small garden her mother tended obsessively. "They're going to love you," Camila said, though her voice betrayed her uncertainty. "But," Xander prompted gently, "but they're traditional. And they're going to ask about your family, your background." She looked at him directly. "I have not told them you are Jewish." Xander was quiet for a moment. "Are you ashamed of me dating someone who is not Catholic?" "No," Camila grabbed his hand. "Never. I just did not want them to judge you before they met you." "Is that terrible?" "It is human," Xander said. But Camila, if we are going to do this, really do this, we cannot hide parts of ourselves, not from each other and not from the people we love. She knew he was right. She nodded, squeezing his hand. Okay, no hiding. Her parents were warm and welcoming at first. Her father, Roberto, shook Xander's hand with the firm grip of a man who worked with his hands, assessing him with shrewd eyes. Her mother, Maria, fussed over the table settings and brought out enough food for a small army. Camila's younger sister, Sophia, was less subtle in her approval, mouthing wow when Xander was not looking. The trouble started over the meal when Maria asked innocently about Xander's family traditions. My mother is very into family dinners for Shabbat, Xander said easily. Though I confess I do not make it every week. Work gets in the way. The silence that followed was heavy. Roberto set down his fork slowly. Shabbat, you are Jewish. I am. Xander's voice was calm but firm. My family has been in New York for 4 generations. Maria's hand fluttered to her cross necklace. Camila, you did not mention this. Does it matter? Camila asked, though her voice was smaller than she intended. He's a good man. He treats me wonderfully. Of course it matters, Roberto said, his accent thickening with emotion. How will you raise your children? What church will they attend? What traditions will they follow? Dad, we have been dating for a few weeks. We are not talking about children. But Camila felt her own anxiety rising. These were questions she had been avoiding in her own mind. Xander stood up and Camila's heart sank. But instead of leaving, he addressed her parents directly. Mr. and Mrs. Fletcher, I understand your concerns. Your faith is important to your family, and I respect that deeply. My own family will likely have similar questions when they meet Camila. He paused. But I care about your daughter very much. She has shown me what it means to live your faith through your actions, through compassion and dedication. That is something I admire in her Catholic faith, just as I hope she can see the value in my Jewish heritage. Roberto's expression softened slightly, but he shook his head. Young man, good intentions are not enough. These differences, they cause problems down the road. The brunch ended awkwardly, with Maria wrapping up leftovers in tense silence, and Sophia giving Camila a sympathetic hug before they left. In the car, Camila fought back tears. I'm sorry, she whispered. That was horrible. They love you. They're protecting you. Xander pulled over in a quiet spot and turned to face her. Camila, maybe they are right to worry. I have been avoiding thinking about the hard questions because I am so caught up in how I feel about you. But this is real. Our religions are different and that matters. So what are you saying? Camila's voice broke. That we should end this. God, no. Xander cupped her face in his hands. I'm saying we should face this head-on. Together. Let us learn about each other's faiths. Really learn, not just tolerate. Camila searched his eyes. You would do that. I would do a lot of things for you, Xander said softly. Starting with this. Over the next several weeks, they embarked on what Xander jokingly called their interfaith education. Camila attended Friday night Shabbat dinner at Xander's mother's apartment, a sprawling Upper East Side place filled with family photos and the smell of brisket. His mother, Millionaire, was elegant and sharp-witted, and she watched Camila with the same assessing gaze her son had inherited. So you are the nurse who has captured my son's attention, Millionaire said as she lit the Shabbat candles. She spoke the Hebrew blessing with a practiced ease, and Camila watched, fascinated by the ritual. I am, Camila said, deciding honesty was the best approach. And I know you probably have concerns about me being Catholic. Millionaire smiled slightly. I have concerns about anyone who dates my son. He is successful and handsome, which means plenty of people are interested in his bank account. She studied Camila. But Xander tells me you argued with a doctor in defense of your grandmother's rosary. That tells me you have a spine and values. I can work with that." The evening was easier than Camila had expected. Xander's sister Rachel was there with her husband and children, and they peppered Camila with questions about her work. The prayers were in Hebrew, but Xander quietly translated for her, and she found herself moved by the emphasis on family, rest, and gratitude. "It is beautiful," she told Xander later as they walked through Central Park. "Your tradition, I mean. The way Shabbat sets aside time for family and reflection, it is not so different from how my family treats Sunday Mass and the meal afterward." "That is what I have been thinking," Xander said. "There are differences, yes, but there is so much overlap in values. Family, charity, justice, faith in something bigger than ourselves." In return, Camila brought Xander to Mass at her childhood parish. Father Miguel, who had known her since she was baptized, welcomed Xander warmly. Xander could not take communion, but he sat beside Camila, standing and kneeling when she did, listening to the homily about loving your neighbor. Afterward, Father Miguel invited them to his office. "Camila told me about your situation," the priest said to Xander. "I imagine you are facing pressure from both your families." "Some," Xander admitted, "but we are trying to work through it." Father Miguel nodded. "Marriage between people of different faiths is not uncommon, though it presents challenges. The church requires certain promises if you marry in a Catholic ceremony. But more importantly, you both need to ask yourselves if you can respect and support each other's faith. Can you raise children who know both traditions and are allowed to choose their own path?" "I believe we can," Camila said, reaching for Xander's hand. "But it is scary. What if we are wrong? Then you will face those challenges with the same honesty and respect you are showing now," Father Miguel said gently. "Love is always a leap of faith, no pun intended." The months that followed tested that faith in unexpected ways. There was the awkward family dinner where Alina and Maria met for the first time, circling each other like polite adversaries, until Sophia made a joke that broke the tension. There was the evening Camila accompanied Xander to a charity gala for his company, and overheard someone whisper about the Catholic nurse dating the Jewish millionaire. There was the argument they had when Xander casually mentioned spending Christmas at a resort, not realizing how important the religious aspect of the holiday was to Camila's family. But there were also moments of profound connection. Xander learned about the saints Camila prayed to, finding parallels with his own tradition's emphasis on righteous people through history. Camila discovered the beauty of Hanukkah when Xander brought a menorah to her apartment, and they lit the candles together, his hand steadying hers as he taught her the blessing. They volunteered together at a food bank run jointly by a church and a synagogue, working side by side to serve meals to those in need. "You know what I realized?" Camila said one evening as they walked home from the food bank. It was early spring, and the city was starting to bloom. "Our faiths do not divide us. They give us more ways to love each other." Xander stopped walking, turning to face her in the middle of the sidewalk. People flowed around them like water around a stone. "Say that again." "Our faiths give us more ways to love each other," Camila repeated, surprised by the intensity in his gaze. "I pray for you in my tradition, and you observe Shabbat and share that peace with me. We are not less because we are different. We are more." "I love you," Xander said. "I have for a while now, but I wanted to be sure we could make this work. And now I know we can, because you are right, we are more together." Camila felt tears prick her eyes. "I love you too, so much." He kissed her there on the street, and Camila felt the rightness of it in her bones. This was what faith was supposed to do, she thought. Bring people together, not tear them apart. When Xander proposed 6 months later, he did it in a way that honored both their traditions. He took Camila to the hospital where they had met, to the very cafeteria where he had first watched her defend her grandmother's rosary. It was late in the evening, and the cafeteria was nearly empty. "This is where I first saw you," Xander said, leading her to the table where she had sat that day. "I watched you stand up for your faith with such passion, and I knew you were someone extraordinary." Camila's heart was racing. She knew what was coming, could feel it in the air. "I have spent the last year learning that our different faiths do not have to be a source of conflict. They can be a source of strength." He got down on one knee, pulling a small box from his pocket. Inside was a ring with a diamond flanked by two smaller stones, one blue and one red. "The blue represents my family, my heritage. The red represents yours. And the diamond in the center is us, made stronger and more beautiful by what we bring together." "Xander," Camila breathed. "Camila Fletcher, will you marry me? Will you build a life with me where we honor both our traditions, where we teach our future children about the richness of both Catholic and Jewish faith, where we prove that love can bridge any difference?" "Yes," Camila said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." He slid the ring onto her finger and stood, lifting her off her feet as he kissed her. A few scattered people in the cafeteria applauded, including a security guard who called out, "About time." Planning the wedding proved to be their greatest test yet. Camila wanted a church wedding, but Xander's family had traditions about Jewish ceremonies. They met with Father Miguel and also with a rabbi friend of Eleanor's, Rabbi Cohen. After several discussions, they decided on a ceremony that would honor both faiths. The wedding would take place in a beautiful garden venue, neutral ground. Father Miguel would officiate alongside Rabbi Cohen, and they would incorporate elements from both Catholic and Jewish traditions. They would not break a glass and also light a unity candle. There would be readings from both the Bible and the Torah. Their vows would acknowledge their commitment to respect and honor each other's faith. "Are you sure about this?" Camila's mother asked her the night before the wedding. They were in Camila's apartment where Maria was helping her daughter prepare. "It is not too late to have doubts." "I have no doubts about Xander," Camila said firmly. "Mom, I know you were worried, but this past year has taught me so much about faith. Real faith is not about everyone believing the exact same thing. It is about respecting what is sacred to each other and finding the common ground." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "You have become so wise. Your grandmother would be so proud." "I think she already knows," Camila said, touching the rosary she would wear under her wedding dress. The wedding day was perfect. The garden was filled with flowers, and chairs were set up facing an arch decorated with both roses and greenery. On Xander's side of the aisle sat his family and friends, many wearing yarmulkes. On Camila's side sat her family and friends, some clutching rosaries. But as the ceremony began, the divisions seemed to blur. Xander stood under the arch in a tailored black suit, and when Camila appeared in her white dress, his eyes filled with tears. She walked down the aisle on her father's arm, and Roberto placed her hand in Xander's with a nod of approval he had not given a year ago. Father Miguel spoke first about the sanctity of marriage, about love that mirrors Christ's love for the church. Then Rabbi Cohen spoke about the chuppah tradition, about building a home together based on love, respect, and faith. They had not erected a full chuppah, but the arch served as a symbol. When it came time for vows, Xander took both of Camila's hands. "Camila, you have taught me that faith is not just something you profess, but something you live. You live your Catholic faith every single day through your compassion, your dedication, your love. I promise to honor your faith, to support your traditions, and to learn from the example you set. I promise to build a Jewish home that also makes space for your Catholic heart. I promise to love you, respect you, and cherish you for all my days." Camila's voice was thick with emotion. "Xander, you have shown me that love is stronger than fear, that our differences can unite us rather than divide us. I promise to honor your Jewish heritage, to raise our children with knowledge of both their traditions, and to always respect what is sacred to you. I promise to be your partner in building a life rich with faith, family, and love. I promise to love you with all that I am, today and always." They exchanged rings, and both Father Miguel and Rabbi Cohen blessed them. Then came the moment that made everyone in attendance smile. They lit a unity candle together, the two smaller flames becoming one, and then Xander stomped on a glass wrapped in cloth, the traditional Jewish breaking of the glass. "Mazel tov," his side of the family shouted. "Congratulations," her side responded. And in that moment, with both traditions honored and both families celebrating, Camila and Xander kissed as husband and wife. The reception was a joyful blend of both cultures. There was traditional Colombian music and Jewish hora dancing. The food included both arepas and latkes. Camila changed into a dress more suitable for dancing, and Xander loosened his tie as they were lifted up in chairs during the hora, holding a napkin between them and laughing with pure joy. Elena and Maria sat together at one point, watching their children dance. "I was wrong to worry," Maria admitted. "They are going to be very happy." "We both were," Elena agreed. "They are teaching us old dogs new tricks." The honeymoon was 2 weeks in Italy, a country that felt like a bridge between their two worlds. They visited the Vatican, where Camila attended Mass at St. Peter's Basilica, and Xander stood beside her, holding her hand. They also visited the Great Synagogue of Rome, one of the oldest Jewish communities in the world, and Camila was moved by the history and resilience Xander showed her. "Thank you for sharing this with me," she said as they walked through the Jewish quarter hand in hand. "Thank you for wanting to learn," Xander replied. "That is what makes this work. We do not just tolerate each other's faith, we embrace it." When they returned home to New York, they moved into a new apartment together, one they had chosen as a married couple. On the wall in their living room, they hung two things side by side: a framed mezuzah that Xander's mother had given them, and a crucifix that Camila's mother had blessed. Below them, they placed a photo from their wedding, the two of them laughing under the arch with both families surrounding them. Their first year of marriage brought new challenges and joys. They navigated holidays, deciding to celebrate both Christmas and Hanukkah, Easter and Passover. Their apartment became a place where traditions mingled naturally. Friday nights, if they were both home, they lit Shabbat candles and had a peaceful dinner. Sunday mornings, Camila attended Mass, and sometimes Xander came with her, sitting in the pew and listening to the homilies that gave her comfort. When Camila's sister Sophia got engaged to a Catholic man, the whole family joked that it felt boring compared to Camila's interfaith wedding. "You set the bar too high," Sophia teased. "How am I supposed to compete with two religious leaders and two traditions?" "Just focus on loving each other," Camila advised. "The rest will follow." The biggest test came when Camila discovered she was pregnant. She told Xander on a Friday evening, right after they had lit the Shabbat candles. She simply placed the positive pregnancy test next to his plate, and his eyes widened before he let out a whoop of joy and lifted her into his arms. "We are having a baby," he said, his voice full of wonder. "We are actually having a baby." But the joy was quickly followed by the question they had been avoiding. "How do we raise this child?" Camila asked that night as they lay in bed, her hand on her still flat stomach. "Do we baptize the baby? Do we have a naming ceremony? Do we choose?" Xander was quiet for a long moment. I think we do both. We baptize our child because that is important to you and your faith. We also have a naming ceremony because that is important to me. And as our child grows, we teach both traditions. We take them to Mass and to synagogue. We celebrate all the holidays, and when they are old enough, they can decide what feels right for them. What if they choose neither? Camila asked. Or what if they choose one and reject the other? Then we will have raised a child who feels free to explore their own faith and make their own choices. Is that not what we both want? For our children to have a real relationship with God, however that looks for them. Camila rolled over to face him. You are going to be an amazing father. We are going to be amazing parents, he corrected. Together. They told their families on the same day, hosting a brunch at their apartment. When they made the announcement, the room erupted in celebration. Eleanor cried and hugged Camila, and Maria blessed them both with a prayer. Roberto shook Xander's hand with genuine warmth, and Rachel immediately started planning a baby shower. The pregnancy brought them even closer. Xander accompanied Camila to every doctor's appointment, his hand always holding hers when they heard the heartbeat or saw the ultrasound images. He rubbed her feet when they swelled, brought her whatever strange food combinations she craved, and talked to her belly every night, telling their baby about the big, rich world they would be born into. This baby is so loved already, Camila said one evening as they assembled the crib together in the nursery. So many traditions, so much family, two faiths full of wisdom and beauty. This baby is going to be bilingual in faith, Xander said with a grin. Everyone else learns Spanish or French. Our kid will speak Catholic and Jewish. Camila laughed, but then grew serious. Do you ever regret it, choosing someone who made your life more complicated? Xander put down the Allen wrench and came to kneel beside where she sat in the rocking chair. Camila, you are the least complicated thing in my life. Yes, we have to navigate two traditions, two families, two sets of holidays, but loving you. That is the simplest, truest thing I have ever done. You are my home. She pulled him close, breathing in his familiar scent. You are mine, too. Their daughter was born on a warm June morning, arriving after 12 hours of labor that Xander stayed by Camila's side through every minute of. When the doctor placed the baby in Camila's arms, both parents wept. She's perfect, Camila whispered. She looks like you, Xander said, touching the baby's tiny hand. They named her Clara Rose. Clara after Xander's grandmother, a strong woman who had survived much and loved fiercely. Rose for Camila's grandmother, whose rosary had started everything. The baby's middle name would be Ruth, honoring both Catholic and Jewish traditions of saintly women. At 6 weeks old, Clara was baptized in a small ceremony at Camila's childhood parish. Xander stood beside Camila at the font, both of them holding their daughter as Father Miguel poured water over her forehead and spoke the ancient words. I baptize you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Camila looked at Xander, and he squeezed her hand. His eyes were damp. 2 weeks later, they held a naming ceremony with Rabbi Cohen present. In their apartment, surrounded by Xander's family, the rabbi blessed Clara and spoke about the heritage she carried, the long line of Jewish tradition that was part of her legacy. Eleanor held the baby and whispered prayers in Hebrew, and Camila felt her heart expand watching her daughter be welcomed into Xander's faith. As Clara grew from infant to toddler, their home became a true blend of traditions. She learned to blow out the Shabbat candles when the flames got low, and she toddled around with a toy rosary Camila's mother had given her. They took her to Mass and to synagogue, and she seemed equally content in both places. On Christmas morning, they opened presents and read the story of Jesus' birth. 8 nights later, Clara helped light the menorah for Hanukkah, one candle for each night. For Easter, they hid eggs and talked about resurrection. For Passover, they had a seder where Clara asked the 4 questions in her sweet toddler voice, and everyone beamed with pride. "She is going to be so confused," Sophia joked once, watching Clara play with both a dreidel and a nativity set. "She is going to be enriched," Camila corrected. "She will know more about faith and tradition than most kids her age." When Clara was 3, she asked her first real question about religion. They were driving home from church, and she piped up from her car seat, "Mama, why do we go to church and synagogue?" Camila glanced at Xander, who was driving. He nodded for her to answer. "Because Mama is Catholic and Daddy is Jewish, sweetheart. We believe in God, but we worship in different ways. We want you to know both ways so you can see how beautiful faith is." "Is God at both places?" Clara asked. "Yes," Xander said firmly. "God is everywhere. God does not care which building you are in or which prayers you say. God cares that you love people and do good things." "Okay," Clara said, satisfied, and went back to singing a song from Sunday school. Camila and Xander exchanged a smile. It was working. Their crazy, complicated, beautiful interfaith life was working. On their 5th wedding anniversary, they renewed their vows in a small ceremony with just their immediate families. Clara served as flower girl, scattering petals with abandon and making everyone laugh. Standing under the same arch where they had married, Camila and Xander spoke new vows. "5 years ago, we promised to honor each other's faith," Camila said. "Today I can say we have kept that promise. You have shown me the beauty of Judaism, taught our daughter the prayers your grandmother taught you, and built a home that respects both our traditions. I love you more than I did 5 years ago, and I did not think that was possible." Xander's voice was thick with emotion. "Camila, you made me understand that faith is not about rules and rituals, though those have their place. Faith is about love in action. You live that every day as a nurse, as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter. Our different religions did not divide us. They gave us a foundation twice as strong. Thank you for taking this leap with me. Thank you for Clara. Thank you for everything." They kissed as their families applauded, and Clara shouted, "Yay, Mama and Daddy." That night, after Clara was asleep and their families had gone home, Xander and Camila sat on their balcony, looking out at the New York skyline. Camila was wearing her grandmother's rosary, and Xander had his grandfather's Kiddush cup on the table beside them. "Do you remember what your father said that first brunch?" Xander asked. "That our differences would cause problems down the road." "I remember," Camila said softly. "He was both right and wrong." Xander pulled her close. "We have had challenges. There have been moments we had to figure out how to merge traditions or explain ourselves to people who did not understand. But those challenges did not divide us. They made us communicate more, respect each other more, love each other more intentionally." Camila rested her head on his shoulder. "My grandmother used to say that love is not finding someone perfect. It is finding someone whose imperfections fit with yours in a way that makes you both better." "She was a wise woman," Xander said. "She would have loved you," Camila said. "I think she is smiling down on us right now." "Along with your grandparents, probably arguing with them about which tradition we should teach Clara next," Xander laughed. "And knowing them, they are probably becoming friends despite themselves. Like we did." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the city lights twinkle. In their daughter's room, Clara slept beneath a mobile that rotated stars of David and crosses in equal measure. In their living room, books about Jesus and Moses sat side by side on the shelf. In their hearts, 2 faiths lived in harmony. "What do you think Clara will choose when she grows up?" Xander asked eventually. Catholic, Jewish, or something else entirely? I do not know, Camila admitted, but I know she will be compassionate, faithful, and open-minded, because that is what we are teaching her. Not that one religion is right and the other is wrong, but that faith in all its forms can lead us to the same place, to love, to justice, to compassion, to God. That is all I ever wanted, Xander said, for our family to be built on love and respect. Everything else is just details. Camila turned to kiss him. I love you, Xander Northbrook. Thank you for being brave enough to ask me to dinner that day in the hospital cafeteria. I love you, Camila Northbrook. Thank you for being brave enough to say yes. Years later, when Clara brought home her first boyfriend at 16, she explained their family situation with ease. My mom is Catholic, my dad is Jewish, and I am still figuring out what I am, but we celebrate everything, and God loves us all anyway. It was said with such confidence that the poor boy could only nod in agreement. Camila and Xander, listening from the kitchen, exchanged proud smiles. They had done it. They had built a family where faith strengthened bonds instead of breaking them, where differences were celebrated instead of feared, where love truly conquered all. And when they knelt together at night, Camila whispering her Catholic prayers while Xander said his Jewish ones, their voices mingled in the darkness like two melodies creating one beautiful song. Their faiths were different, but their destination was the same. Love, family, and a devotion to something greater than themselves. Together, they had proven that religion did not have to divide. It could unite, uplift, and inspire. It could be the very foundation on which a marriage thrived. As Camila drifted off to sleep in Xander's arms, she thanked God for the argument in the cafeteria, for the man who had listened, and for a love that had been blessed by two faiths and strengthened by both. They were living proof that when two people commit to honoring what is sacred to each other, no difference is too great to overcome,